Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today it is the final recap video for the 2023 season of the Overwatch League, and potentially, as I've talked about before, the final recap ever for the Overwatch League. We'll talk about that more later. I'd rather focus at the beginning of this video on the actual playoffs and the grand finals and everything that happened on Sunday. But obviously, lots of stuff to cover and talk about. With everything, all the news that has kind of broken over the past 24 to 48 hours, lots and lots to talk about. But like I said, let's begin with the grand finals and the playoffs. We finally have our champion for the 2023 season of the Overwatch League. Unsurprisingly, going into the playoffs, we all thought that the Florida Mayhem would walk away victorious, and they were the ones to hoist that trophy this year, completing the cycle of the bottom four teams from 2018, all walking away Overwatch League champions. And what a run it was for the Mayhem this year. Obviously, they were the preseason champions, winning the Pro-Am tournament. How much that really means, up to you. I think a lot of people viewed it as a decent kind of result, but nothing really to write home about. But they won the preseason tournament, and they won the postseason tournament, and they are officially the 2023 champions. And what a phenomenal performance in the Grand Finals itself from Merritt, of course, the winner of the Grand Finals MVP for 2023. Phenomenal game from him, mostly on the Bastion, but he looked great. He looked phenomenal. I tweeted about it during the Grand Finals, but easiest Grand Finals MVP nom I've ever had. I thought the most interesting thing about the Grand Finals was that all four maps kind of went the same way. Yes, it was for Overwatch, but every map kind of started with the Outlaws starting hot, coming up big, getting a huge, round one victory or really good opening fight or whatever it was, and then just Florida buckling down and really kind of locking it up and winning it out at the end of the map, in the middle of the map and towards the end of the map, really kind of solidifying it. And a lot of that was heroics from Merritt, coming up big, getting a lot of really big plays there. I thought it was a very interesting kind of game to watch because Houston really did come out swinging every single map. Bernard in the first three maps, Fearless on map 4, and just the whole team in general really did look good, especially at the start of series. But it just felt like every single map was just Florida really committing to kind of shutting down Shu and shutting down Violet and stopping Bernard from getting a ton of value and really preventing Pelican and Javi from doing too much. They really just kind of went that extra step in every single map and every single round, really just kind of upping the ante every single time. And it really felt like the Mayhem just had their number. You always want a really competitive Overwatch League Grand Finals. Last year, we were spoiled. I still think the 2022 Grand Finals is among the best Overwatch League matches of all time. It was phenomenal. It was back and forth. It was incredibly, exciting. This year, of course, does not really reach those same highs. But it was still a good match, just in terms of what you kind of could see. Like, map to map, it was a pretty good match. As a whole, it wasn't great. I especially think it feels like a pretty mediocre and lackluster send-off for the league, but it also feels poetic that the league went out really the way it always kind of went, which was grand finals that just were not close at all. But the Mayhem, to me, are such an interesting story because you think about this team, they had such a phenomenal run in the second half of the season. Their last loss going into the playoffs was, of course, their loss to the Houston Outlaws in the mid-season madness lower bracket finals. That's the last time they lost a game. And then all of the summer stage, they won every game they played. They won every game in the playoffs. Dominant run in the second half of the season. They were about as dominant in the second half of the season as Atlanta Reign were in the first half of the season. It was a tale of two halves for this season. Atlanta was the best team in the first half. Florida was the best team in the second half. Guess what? The team that was better in the second half walked away as grand finals champions. I think the story is certainly one to really kind of be excited about with the Mayhem. MVP with someone, he was MVP of the league. Well-deserved. He had a very good year as well. And I thought that he showed really why. He's a leader. He's very talented. He's a phenomenal player. And so seeing what the Mayhem were able to do this year and how they were able to really just look dominant in the second half of the year. I said in my preseason power rankings when I put them at number 1 that I didn't think they were the team that was going to win it all. I thought that they, their bracket was a little bit easier in the play-in or in the Pro-Am. I thought that they didn't have the toughest kind of schedule. They struggled a bit against the Gladiators team that had, yes, beaten teams like Houston and Atlanta on their way, but I was like, yeah, I think they're a good team. But the reason why I put them number 1 was that they were a team that even in the preseason felt like they had everything. They had clicked early. And that's something you don't normally see. A lot of teams like Atlanta and even Boston, Houston, there were question marks. There were things I didn't love from them in the Pro-Am. And it was just the Pro-Am. It didn't matter as much. But I felt like Florida was one of the few teams that had everything together. They looked solid. They looked coordinated. They looked ready to go that long ago. You have a player like RuPaul, who is the only Western player on the roster, playing perfectly, right? Playing flawlessly. You hear the comms for that team. A lot of the comms are not in English. They are coming to each other in Korean. RuPaul is being thrown into this game. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't necessarily know what the communication is fully, but he was still able to have such a huge impact, and that was something that impressed me early in the season, and it never really let up. And it really led to just them being the best team by the end of the season. And they were so good. They've had so many different looks. They could play literally anything you wanted from them. And they are such an impressive team to just talk about now when you think about their run. Very well deserved, right? I think it's nice to see the best team win the grand finals. Yes, it would have been nice for a team like Houston, who have been competing for so long and have been really kind of middling for so long. It would have been really nice to see them get the win, or Hangzhou getting the kind of Cinderella story in a sense, or even Boston kind of this team of all-time greats kind of cementing their legacy as some of the best in the world. But I think Florida being the best team in the world, going into the playoffs, and then walking out of the playoffs, remaining the best team in the world, that to me is truly the story of the Florida Mayhem season. It is that they are a team with the best coach in the world, the best main tank in the world, some of the best damage players in the world, some of the best supports in the world. I don't think in many places they are the single best, right? I think someone's the best tank that we've seen, but I don't think Chorong and RuPaul are the best flex supports or best supports in the league. I don't think Merit and Checkmate are the best damage players in the league, but they're the best players for this team because they give you everything you need. They never let it down. They always come up big. They have a phenomenal coach, and I think you look at the Mayhem and you just see why they were so successful, because top to bottom, the organization is phenomenal. The roster is phenomenal, and they just impressed me so much by the end of the year. But yeah, they won. I can't say I'm shocked, but I'm very happy that the Mayhem managed to pull it off, because they're one of the organizations that I think have really done a lot, especially since like 2020, to really kind of rebuild this team. And they've done a lot of work, and they've done a lot of investment into kind of building up this team and doing it, I think, in a good way. Really kind of promoting talent, working with talent. Yeah, they've had some time here and there where people have been a little upset with them, but generally speaking, they've done a good job kind of bringing it together. And it's good to see a team so dedicated from the very beginning, really walking away from the Overwatch League with a championship under their belt, and potentially the final Overwatch League championship under their belt. Glad to see it go to a team as dominant and as fun to watch as the Florida Mayhem. I mentioned the names of the other teams that did very well this weekend. Of course, Houston Outlaws, second place in the tournament, losing in the grand finals. You have the Hangzhou Spark, who were victorious in that third place match of the Boston Uprising, and the Boston Uprising, who finished, of course, fourth. Those are your top four teams. They were the teams who still play on Sunday. I thought all of them had very good tournaments. Obviously, varying success format concerns and format problems and issues with the format that kind of hurt a team like Hangzhou more than it hurt a team like Houston. But to me, I look at what we saw, and I just think it was really impressive what all three of those teams were able to do. Obviously, Hangzhou with the shocking run, defeating the Atlanta Reign in a reverse sweep, defeating the Boston Uprising in a reverse sweep, beating Boston again to finish that third place finish. The best finish for the Hangzhou Spark ever in a season. Top three. Best they've ever done before is fourth. Now they get third place. And they are in a very, very good spot as we head towards the World Cup. Of course, the majority of this Hangzhou Spark roster is that Team China roster. The only difference is Pineapple is not on Team China, and 20 presumably still is on Team China, though that could change. We don't know exactly what's going to go on there. But I thought they looked really good. They were really fun to watch. I'm really glad that they lived up to the hype that we all have for them at the beginning of the year. They are that good. They are that team. We saw different looks out of them. They can just, they can play Doomfist. They can play Winston. Yeah, they're good at dive, and they're going to play dive against you, but they are one of the best dive teams in the world, and they're so fun to watch. You put Shy on LAN. He is unbelievable. He pops off all the time. Monk was so good in the playoffs. That is the Monk that we wanted to see. This team is so phenomenal, and they're so fun to watch. And I'm really glad they got to play as well as they did, and we got to see as much of them as we did in this playoffs. Because I really think that they are kind of the driving force to show you that even though Overwatch is seemingly dead in China because of everything that has happened with Blizzard and the fact that China doesn't have the game, this team shows you that China is a pool for some of the best players in the world. And when China comes back to Overwatch, it is going to once again be one of the talent pools with some of the best players in the world. And I'm super excited to see them kind of back when hopefully the dust settles and China is welcomed back into the Overwatch world and Blizzard games are available there again. Outlaws, I thought, were another interesting team this playoffs. Obviously, they had 2 losses the entire playoffs. Both of them were to Florida. Florida's kind of their kryptonite. I just think Florida looked a lot better than they did. Houston has their strengths, they have their weaknesses, but I just thought that they were not playing their best Overwatch late in the year. I thought that they're still a very good team. It's hard to be bad when you have Fearless and Shu and Violet and Happy and Pelican as your roster, but I thought when you compared them to the likes of the Boston Uprising, the Atlanta Reign even, and of course the Florida Mayhem, I thought they were not as dominant as they were in the first half of the year. But they had to beat the Hangzhou Spark to get in. They had Dallas, who didn't play particularly great Overwatch, so they were in a position to get to the grand finals, and they made it. They did well. They played well. I know there's a lot of people who didn't love the signing of Bernard and the fact that they were able to sign him, and that's definitely something that you can feel one way or the other about. I thought Bernard played so well in the playoffs. I'm so happy he got to play well. I've been a big fan of Bernard since he was on London in 2020, so seeing him now get to kind of do well on the Hangzhou Spark for several years and then do well now with the Houston Outlaws was really, really awesome, and I'm really excited to see his future. I'm glad he got to at least show up and perform and look pretty good for this Outlaws team. Uprising, I really wanted them to win. I really, really did. I love all the players in this Uprising roster. They're so great. They're so talented. You just wanted to see the one last hurrah for some of the legends of the game. You also like to see players that have never won before win, which of course is the case with the Florida Mayhem roster. So I'm not going to complain about players who've never won a grand finals before winning. But Boston was such a fun team to watch. Such a good watch. There's questions about the team. Why did they make some of the compositional choices that they made, especially against Hangzhou? They could have run something like a reset for the full series, so they started to switch and kind of match Hangzhou a bit, which felt kind of odd. And then Twilight didn't really play in the playoffs. He may not have played at all, which to me was kind of odd and something I would have liked to see. But this team was so fun to watch. And at the end of the day, I'm still very proud of this team for what they were able to do. We all knew this team would be good. We all knew this team had potential, but so many people thought this team would boom. So many people thought this team would fall apart and they would just implode. And they didn't, right? They kept it all together. They made it very far into the playoffs. A lot of people think they kind of stopped carrying a third place match, which is certainly possible. I think that when you consider this team and their pedigree, they're a team going after championships. Third place doesn't really matter as much to them. A lot of these players have won. The fact that they fell short, to me, probably was things that made them a little more disinterested in that series, but I really liked what we saw from them this playoffs. I think this Boston Uprising team is phenomenal, and I'm very happy that we got to see them pop off in this playoffs. Really nice win. 2 wins over the London Spitfire. They were very, very nice. Good game against the Hangzhou Spark when they played. So you love to see it. You're happy for them, and all you really want is just to see this team pop off and do well. And they did pretty well. So I'm very happy with what they did. I'm very proud of them, and I'm excited to see where all these players go. Right, I'm sure some of them will retire, but just getting to see the legends of the game, get to play together one last time, was really, really fun. And I'm hoping that whatever comes next, some of these players stick around, because I will continue to root for so many of these guys as we go into the future. The big story, of course, however, after the grand finals is that the Overwatch League announced that following the conclusion of the 2023 grand finals and the 2023 season, the league will be focusing on building out a new vision for a revitalized esports program, and that they will share more details when they are finalized. And so for all intents and purposes, the Overwatch League as we know it is officially gone. And we all knew this was coming, especially when they started playing the montage at the end of the grand finals. That really did get me. I'm not even going to hide it. I literally was crying watching it. I was struggling to fall asleep afterwards. I was just like so emotional, and just thinking about all of the memories and all of the moments and stuff like that. So I just wanted to just say, thank you to the Overwatch League, to the community, to all of you who have watched my content, who have commented, who have liked, who have subscribed, who have, posted about me and tagged me in chats and other streams and saying that you like my content and all of this stuff. I have so much that I can and will say with time. This is not the end of me reflecting on the Overwatch League and what it has meant for me as a person, as a content creator, as, just in every way imaginable. The Overwatch League has had a major impact on my life, and I'm glad that I got to go on this journey with so many of you who have been there and have been watching and have been, like I said, commenting and just all of this stuff. It's very hard to think about how this thing that we've all loved for 6 years now has come to an end. And we don't know exactly what's coming next. We don't know what it's going to be the next time we see Overwatch esports next year, beyond the World Cup. We don't really know what to expect, but I'm glad we got what we got, and I'll always think very fondly of the time that we've had and the memories that we made. So thank you all. Truly, thank you. I'm excited to see where we go next, and it's going to be a wild ride. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to end this one. Like I said, thank you all once again. Really, well and truly, the journey of a lifetime with the Overwatch League, and I'm excited to see where everything goes from here. But thank you. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.